Ladies and gentlemen, to Season 11, we're here with Round 1. It's a brand new day for the Sim Racing Alliance. It's going to be a little bit more punishing out here during qualifying.
It's definitely a hard one here. It's what it's like. It's very, very punishing.
For all the way in Germany, this will be the first time we see this in the team series here. This is a track where you will be driving the track, not as much driving the drivers on the track.
Very brave is the Ferrari to get the move done.
He does get the position done.
Oh, huge contact, and they're both going to go around. It's going to be a huge move up the inside.
He's been using every bit of the track.
Pedal to the metal, foot to the floor.
And we're off and away for SRA.
Good evening, SRA Nation. Thank you for joining us for rounds 3 and 4 of League in a Week. We are here at Imola this week. I'm your host, Big Daddy. I'm joined in the booth here by Andrew Reif. Andrew, how are you doing this evening?
Doing pretty good. We're going to have a bit more of a relaxed stream tonight, I hope, which isn't really fitting for the track, but for a bit unfortunately on my part, is feeling slightly under the weather, so I gotta keep the voice down. It'll be hard, certainly, given what we saw yesterday, but I've got a good feeling about it. Hopefully, there won't be any major lap 1 incidents. Imola's a tough track.
Certainly it is. It's a track that's difficult to be consistent on more than anything. Plenty of curves that you can try to take advantage of, but unfortunately also plenty of curves that'll spit you out the moment you get it even just a little wrong.
Indeed. We were planning on having Alexa in the booth with us tonight, as shown by the graphic, but she was unfortunately unable to at least make the start time. She might hop in a little bit later, but we'll just have to wait and see. Drivers are starting to get out on track for the free practice session prior to the beginning of qualifying here. We did see quite a few of them out on the track prior to the session beginning. There's a lot of mix-ups in terms of car selection, but speaking of mix-ups in the standings, some drivers on the top that I don't necessarily think we would expect. Bailey Kish leading the way with 100 points, 2 P2 finishes back-to-back at Paul Ricard, a very solid result indeed.
Absolutely, and Bailey's followed closely by Joel Moffat and Guy Manferson, who are tied for second with 84 points. Certainly not impossible to claw that back and take the points lead from Kish.
Yeah, Anton Marshevich also notably up there in 5th position right now, 70 points ahead of previous champion Mia Rose, who did have a race win in race number 1, but of course it's half points across two races. I just seen Jess in the chat saying she's definitely passed out. You know what, Jess? I didn't want to call her out, okay? But you might have forced my hand. So we'll take a look here at the track map. Of course, we were talking about the difficulty of Imola, and I think Daddy, you can basically give everybody the rundown of everything I was complaining about, and the long and short is the whole track.
Yeah, certainly it's a tough one. I know you specifically were saying that you're not the biggest fan of Variante Alta and Acqua Minerale.
Yes.
Certainly those are two of the more difficult corners, I would say, to get correct around this track, especially on a consistent basis.
The consistency is 100% the hardest. For a 3-mile circuit, too, you mentioned the challenge here is immense, but if you enjoy the track, which many people, yourself included, of your own admittance, if you enjoy the track, then it can be a joy to drive. But yes, also very challenging at the best times.
Absolutely. I love this track immensely, but it's usually not kind to me. Every now and then, moments, it's like, hey, it's okay. And then it's very much not okay. But that is part of racing, and that's why we go racing. Want to see exactly what we can do.
It's going to be big here with the car selection as well. You talk about the curbing, and there will certainly be more than a couple of drivers out on the circuit today who's going to be taking advantage of getting up all over the curbing, specifically in the Variante Tamburello, and of course Variante Alta, Acqua Minerale, as we were just talking about. Those are huge corners. where if you can maximize that little bit of extra track, if your car allows, you can find some extra time. But if you have one of the more nimble cars, the curves are going to be much, much less friendly to you. So watch out for those McLarens, those Ferraris, to kind of stray a little bit away from those big sausage curves. The free practice has just ended, though, and the green light is illuminated at the end of the pit lane. So in about 1 minute's time, we're going to see the first qualifying laps coming out.
Absolutely.
Trying to get eyes on who all is lining up here at the end of the pit lane. We've had quite a few new names joining us on the grid today and yesterday.
Absolutely,
And
we have.
I'd like to go down the list. A couple of them that I personally am not familiar with. Richard Mack, the 107 McLaren at the moment. Marco Bau on the field as well. Jason Pinkert, a name I haven't seen. Thomas Acosta, who I think has been around a couple of events here and there. And I think there was one or two more that I noticed, but, you know, just keep an eye out for some names. There's a couple of cars out on circuit. They're having a great time already. They're not even on the circuit. They're still in the pit lane. Mr. Sir, that is in the 747 Lexus.
I think they are trying to employ the strategy of guaranteeing a pit lane start. Trying to game the game, essentially.
It's Palmieri and Mr. Sir. Gotta love it.
Let's see. We'll hop on board here with Maycomer, who was first out on track. Driving McLaren 720, and we'll see what he can put together for us.
Of course, talking about this one qualifying session to determine your starting grid position. For both the two races, maximum points available are 100, 110, I believe, but it's half points for every race on the week in a week schedule. So I am looking at it, it's indeed 110 points. I think we do still give out bonus points for pole position and the fastest lap, although I could easily be mistaken on that one. In fact, looking at the results, I think I am.
Yeah, I don't
But
believe
in any case,
don't believe there's bonus points for going the extra mile.
well, you can't win them all, as they say.
No. But with that said, I think let's talk about the keys for this evening's races. I think the biggest one is taking note of the fact that these are going to be 20-minute races instead of the usual 60 minutes that we see in the team series and multi-class events. It means there's going to be... any mistakes are going to be punished much more harshly with much less time to recover from them. So I think one of the biggest keys to tonight's races is just going to be surviving. You see someone being a silly goose, give them a little bit of leeway. Make sure that you both make it to the finish line at the end of the race. What about you, Andrew? What are your thoughts?
Well, and, you know, I hate to play devil's advocate, but if you could hypothetically, ruin somebody else's race without taking yourself out of the equation, then that would, technically speaking, only technically, be a quote-unquote decent strategy. I'm not going to advise that. I don't think we should do that. SRA, we like to be clean here. We do.
Absolutely. I see your point, but at the end of the day, this is meant to be fun. As much as we all do want to win, we all want to do it cleanly, and we want to win by our own merits more than anything else. Even in the team series, where there is glory and shoey to be had and on the line, just doesn't hit the same when you win due to technicalities or due to misfortune of others. It's always nice to win it completely outright.
It's going to Variante Alta for the first time on their flying laps. O'Leary and the car behind seem to take that relatively nicely. And actually, is O'Leary on a flying lap right now? I'm not necessarily sure if they are, but
Doesn't look like it yet. Let's take a look.
I haven't seen any yellows yet. It's going to be McCumber across the line first, 44.3. Not exactly lighting up the timetables, but certainly not a bad start.
No, certainly not a bad time at all. Certainly a time That is very viable banker lap. Although Bao immediately throwing up a 42.8.
Consider as well the temperatures are soaring a little bit here. If I'm just going to quick walk, and there it is, 30 and 39 degrees of temps. So times that you would normally expect to fall down into the low 40s to maybe even high 39s for true aliens, most likely going to be out of reach for even some of the faster drivers on circuit. As improvements start to come down the table, Morecumber's actually quite a ways up on their lap, already in P2 for the first segment of drivers, but there's plenty of green deltas out in the field.
Absolutely. Macomber currently 8/10 up. Looks like he's improving a little bit. And looks like also Kimball out here about 8/10 up. 9/10 now, over a second up. My goodness, this will be a scorcher. Currently sitting at a 45.2. We're looking to get into at least the 44s, if not into the 43s, by the time he comes back around to the start-finish.
Also on board with Brian Clark at the moment, who is only sits down at 147.1, but is improving about a second and a half up on their lap right now. And you don't necessarily find that much time without having a little bit more in the bank. So once that lap gets set, look for some additional improvements from that driver in the Bentley, which, as I understand, based on evidence from the past, you are quite a big fan of now.
Absolutely. Bentley car, best car. And especially here at Imola. That car is very strong. It's able to take great use of the curbs here. Not as upset. Not, necessarily quite as well as some other cars, but certainly better than many. And the car has a ton of mechanical grip, which helps it really get out of the corners. It's a very strong car here, and as always, it's just a ton of fun to drive. You can really throw it around. And Bao looks to have improved their time to a 42.6. Macomber is up to a 43.4, which is certainly starting to see some times flowing in that are on the faster end of the spectrum. Aoki is up about 6/10 right now. So we'll be looking to get into the mid-43s. Kimball's up another 8/10. Looks like he invalidated on his last time around. So we have a McLaren off in the grass there. That is the 107 of Mac. Looks like he has returned to garage already.
I wouldn't necessarily call it a bad idea to go in, get some fresh tires. I mean, we talked a little bit about the conditions as Aoki comes across the line here. Only about a 3/10 improvement. Definitely lost some time at one point. But Macomber continues to improve, as you mentioned earlier, which, as I said, the 144 mid was not necessarily an amazing time. Slight slide there out of Ravazza 2 for Macomber, but still a solid improvement. And they are just about going to breach into the high 42s, I think. There it is, a 42.995.
Certainly a very spicy time.
Yeah, hopefully they'll have more in the tank. Big improvement there for Kimball. Or, hang on. Was that an invalid lap they just ran? I saw they were up like a second and a half or something such. Rodriguez is too. I'm watching them just about to come across the line. 1.8 seconds up on a 145.4 and will improve all the way up into P5. A very good lap. Data blank. What are we doing? Roughly the same in the NSX. Car that has been receiving a lot more attention lately. And realistically speaking, and we talked about car selection, the NSX, the GTR, even the 488 Evo has started to get a little bit into the conversation to contend with some of the previously top vehicles.
Absolutely, and the 488 specifically, I know several people love it, but the Urine brothers, I think, have really been instrumental in getting those cars back out into the limelight. Certainly, they've had some success in D3, and they have certainly been professing their love for it. They are not quiet about it in the slightest, and I know Dan Cran is another driver we'll be seeing this evening, who is a very, I'll say, passionate promoter of the 488. Almost, dare I say, to the extent that I'm a passionate promoter of the Bentley.
This is seriously a good improvement from Bao. With a bit of a slide though in Ravazza, and
Yeah, it's going to bleed off quite a bit of time.
Ooh, they were 4 tenths up. They're gonna have one more lap to go as we come to the end of qualifying here. Sarver's on an improvement, but it's invalid at the moment. Kimball is finding a little bit more time, 5 tenths up on what they did previously, which again, I think they had a real flyer lap on the previous tour, but ended up invalidating it.
I'm currently on board with Tinney. We're following Tinney around, currently 9 tenths up. Come up towards the last couple of corners here. And the number 26 Lamborghini. See if he can keep this one together.
Looks like Sarver's actually, just maybe had a little bit of traffic, but got around it.
Looks like Tinney lost a little bit of time, but still improvement of about half a second will bump him to the mid-44s. Up a couple positions into a provisional P15.
Bound validated on his last attempt to go around. And actually, Movo might be able to take away provisional P1 here.
Ooh.
Nearing the end of the first section of qualifying, needs to find a 10th and maybe some here in Ravazza. And looked like they lost some time in the braking zone, but I think that might be indicative of a mistake they made on a previous qualifying lap. They won't find the time they need on the exit. But a solid improvement nonetheless. McCumber
Absolutely.
was thinking about the same, but had a similar situation. Might just be the tires starting to heat up a little bit too much near the end of their qualifying stint. I mean, we talk about the temperatures. It is kind of brutal out there.
Absolutely it is. And managing the tires here at this track can be a little bit difficult. Certainly you have to use the curbs plenty, which always runs the risk of bleeding out some pressure, and you really need that rear end to rotate around, which puts a little bit more stress on them.
Sarver improves up to P4 with a 43 flat in the fullest of moments.
I'd love to see it. I'm currently on board with Pinkard in P12, currently up just about 2.5 tenths. Improved to very nearly a 43. Going to be good enough for P11.
I believe that leaves Thompson out. Jeff Thompson as the last driver for the first groups that are out on qualifying, coming out of Ravazza 2 now with about a half tenth of improvement, which should actually net a couple of positions here. And the Lamborghini up to the line, and I'll keep an eye on that timing table. There it is, about 5 or 6 positions. Nice qualifying lap there from Jeff Thompson. Puts him up into P11.
Very good. See, that 42.5 from Bao is going to be a very strong time indeed. I will be curious to see exactly how low we can get from some of our fastest drivers in here.
I want to believe that it's going to hold up, but I look down the list and I don't really see too many names that are very weak on pace.
You aren't wrong. You aren't wrong in the slightest. Question is, to what extent? 42.5 isn't a bad time to begin with, especially in the heat. That could hold. Maybe not for pole, but I could see that potentially even staying within the top 10.
I think I'm going to have to contradict you. I think it would be Herculean. There are quite a few strong drivers.
There are.
Licina Rivera is actually one I'm watching out for. That's a 386 McLaren. Was incredibly quick at Imola in season 11 in their car. So the 386 might put up a competitive time. This is the same car that they were driving during that season as well. So as times start to get on the board, as I believe Palmieri might have the first valid lap for the second group of drivers, and he was the fastest on track at Paul Ricard for race 2 just yesterday, and he's ready to put down the first time of quali, and I can't help but think that this is probably going to be an incredibly competitive time. Driver known for his amazing one-lap pace.
You aren't wrong. Palmieri certainly likes to lay it down out there, and he is going to start his first flying lap, it looks like.
Oh, well, it showed he was on a lap. if it was just incorrect timing on my race control or if he invalidated it earlier.
Could be. Looks like he has already blasted through turn 3 on the inside. So this one certainly will not be a valid lap, and I have a feeling he may just be using this as a chance to get acquainted with the car here at Imola. Again, I heard rumors that he might try something akin to a last to first challenge.
Worth noting Fazli Majid up with a 41.7. That's his first lap in the NSX. Guy Manperson a 42 flat as his first flat. I'm on board with Rushevich. He goes through Variante Villeneuve into the Tosa hairpin. The GTR, as I mentioned before, is a car that has been a little bit contentious in the past, but recently has climbed up to relative fame, especially given the balance of performance update that Kunos gave to it, bringing it back not only into viability, but almost into the echelon of the upper tiers.
You certainly aren't wrong. The GTR has been getting more and more popularity, and I think you're all right that it is due to Kunos's back-end tweaks. I've tried driving that car a couple of times, though admittedly it has been a moment since I've tried it last. And it's one that I just don't quite jive with. I find it seems to want to not rev out quite as much as I'm used to, especially coming from the Porsche and the Bentley, which you can just throw around and they're happy to take whatever you throw at them.
People talk about it being a little bit touchy on the brakes as well, which can be a problem in towards turn 1. The 81 is going to come up to the line now, and I think there was a little bit of a bumble on the exit of the Tosa hairpin. We'll see what time ends up going on the table. It is 42 mid. Nothing particularly amazing about that, just in front of Joel Moffat, and definitely some time in it for Rushevich, so we'll have to see how things evolve for them.
Absolutely. Rushevich was one who had a fairly strong race. Actually, a pair of fairly strong races yesterday evening. Started from P16, if I remember correctly, and finished just outside the top 5 in both. Certainly his race pace is there. His racecraft is strong. I have to see exactly what he's able to put together here this evening, though.
Just seeing an improvement. The 295 of Yaren up with a 42.5. Respectable lap there in the Ferrari, which I believe in the 488 Evo today is Jeremy Yaren, indeed. So bringing a little bit of representation there. I'm on board right now with Fazli Majid, who is up by half a second on the current provisional pole time of a 141.7. This will be insane if he can put it together. There are better times on the table. I believe we're going to break into the 40s before the end of qualifying. This will certainly set the benchmark, presently speaking. And actually, I didn't say that. Rose just hopped up to the top with a 40.6. What? Where did that come from?
This is mind-boggling to watch. It makes me feel so slow.
When I watch some of the fastest drivers we have, but it's a curse I have bestowed upon myself. Still green deltas across the board. I'm looking down the list, and notable drivers still yet to set a lap. Bailey Kish and Jeff Spangler, as well as Palmieri. But if what you heard as a rumor is indeed true, we may not see a lap out of him at all.
And that is certainly a big if, especially with Mia throwing down such a competitive time there with that 40.6. It looks like Mia and Fazli have both of the Honda drivers have returned to the garage. They're half satisfied with their times, it seems. And I really can't blame them. 40.6 and a 41.2, both of them each half a second clear of the person behind.
So Kish just validated there on the exit of Aqua Minerale. Very difficult to keep it within track limits and still carry the speed. Spangler is still on a valid lap, just behind.
And so is Palmieri, at least for the moment.
Keep an eye on that. I'll follow Spangler across the line here, so watch the left-hand side of your screens, everybody. See where exactly they do end up here. Palmieri.
Palmieri up to P3.
But and Spangler will jump to P3.
Ooh.
Unseen Palmieri nearly ousting Fazley from the front row there, but not quite. Palmieri's still going to have some minutes. Rusevich is also improving, about 4/10 up right now, out of Ravazza 2. Make that just about 5, maybe a slight slide in the traction zone.
And that'll be the end of the line for Palmieri as he invalidates through the first chicane on the exit of it and returns to garage.
Oh, Travis Robinson is just invalidated on their last flying lap, so that's the end of qualifying for them. Guy Manperson is starting their last go. And Spangler's up by 3, almost 4/10 now, actually, out of Piratella. And unless he's trying to contest Mia for that pole position, he's got this lap locked down. I think he's not quite satisfied with it, though, as he's still going for it.
From experience, Spangler is not one that likes to give up. He is going to go and pursue that last little bit as fervently as he can.
He's actually following Kish around right now, who has yet to set a lap, as does Zip. Spangler up about 5/10. It's not going to be enough. Needs 6/10. Hold the phone. Oh, that's a big slide. Oh, it's a big slide. And there it goes. All the advantage he had against Majid. And it looks like P3 is going to be as high as he goes, as his delta goes red just across the line. Spangler got a little bit too greedy. Bailey Kish actually takes P4 from Palmieri. Just beat him out by 200ths of a second. And Blasini Rivera is improving on a valid lap right now out of Piratella. Currently sitting in P14.
Ian Byron also about to be coming across the lines. Currently 6/10 up on his fastest. Currently P20, and this should bump him up a couple of spots. And it's going to bump up more than a couple, up to P12.
It's a good showing for Yaron and Byron both in quality.
Absolutely.
Guy Manperson up to 4th position, unseating Kish and Palmieri, but not Spangler. Will take a spot on the 2nd row. Excellent result there. Still on board with Rivera. About 6/10 up out of the final corner. Good solid lap put together, and that should jump him up into the top 10 as he comes up to the line. And the 3.86 goes to P9. Excellent result there.
Cockcroft's going to be looking at about a 6/10 improvement, which should put him into the mid-43s. Don't believe that's going to be the showing that he quite wanted, but certainly not one to be ashamed of.
Indeed. Interesting qualifying result. So Rose out in the front, definitely where she wants to be. Fazli Majid, though, on the front row in the 712 NSX. You got 2 NSXs starting up on the front. I've got to say, I'm impressed. You know, I think Faz actually made the setup that they are both running for this race. I can't speak for if Mia made any adjustments of her own for qualifying or indeed for the race. But I know that Faz is a very talented engineer when it comes down to it. So that's, I guess, just a testament to what he can do not only off track, but also on.
You aren't wrong. Faz certainly is a great engineer, and they are in the same conglomerate of Madhouse Racing. I know they do share their setups, and certainly Faz is very generous with how much he will share just with the broader SRA community. And I have to say, I'm always happy to see the Hondas up on top. It's a very fun car to drive, very challenging to get to grips with, but certainly very rewarding and a great teaching tool.
For sure, lots to learn from that car. It was Travis Nordstrom who really showed us that in Season 11. It was a joy to watch him take that rear-engine vehicle around some of the circuits we had on the calendar, especially Donington Park. It was a masterclass from him there. Not the only NSX driver we have, by the way. Brandon Controller, who I believe is Brandon Chan in disguise. which, if indeed that is the case, I'm sorry for doxing you, but down in P14. Something tells me he might not be on his wheel and pedals. Very rapid driver he, and if that is the case, then I am operating under the assumption that he's also probably using a, shall we say, custom-designed car setup. Anton Rushevich coming in 9th. We were talking about him mixing things up. I think the big story I'm watching out for, Guy Manperson in 4th and Bailey Kish in 5th. That's going to be an epic battle, you know for sure, as they get started here with the short formation lap.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see which of the two can come out on top. With yesterday's races, it was Bailey Kish. Guy Manperson was lagging just a little bit behind. If I remember correctly, he didn't have as strong of a qualifying session yesterday.
Palmieri does start in the pit lane, so perhaps he wanted to qualify just so he had the option to start race number 2 on the grid, but he's in the pits for this one.
Could be. It's hard to say. We may have to see if we can get an answer out of him later on. These cars are coming up to the line. Should see a green flag shortly.
Imola tends to take a little bit here. We're going to try and keep my eyes in the midfield. Lots of returning and newer drivers. In fact, they're going to be looking to make a name for themselves.
Certainly, Imola, like Paul Ricard, is a track that really, I don't want to say encourages, but it invites a lot of side-by-side racing in the very early laps. And that can always lead to a little bit of drama.
Here we go. Open to turn 1. I
As
see 3
several
wide.
cars.
That is, oh no, what is going on with that? Jeff Disaster. I'm going to take that back and see if I can get a little bit of the race start. Let's see what's going on there as the main picture follows the racers.
Looks like that is going to let Guy Manperson out in front, too. It'll be dangerous for Bailey's points lead. He's got to go and make up some time and some positions here. As Manperson starts to check out, is already a 1 second advantage over Fazli Majid.
It's like one of the, I believe the NSX of Fazli did end up making contact with a McLaren in the early stages of that turn 1 incident. That's what caused those cars to go off.
Naughty, naughty.
To the back, there's a car off, almost rejoins the Jacob Palmieri. Oh man.
I'm watching a very close battle here between Fazli, Kish, and Mia. Each of the three nose to nose to nose. Or I suppose only nose to tail. As Manperson continues to pull out a bit of a lead, currently sitting at 1.6 seconds. Mia tries to make it side by side through the outside line around Kish and can't quite make it happen. But going to have a stellar drive out of the final corner, my goodness. Looks like Bailey may have had a bad drive as well to amplify that, and Robinson is even going to have a look here. He's able to get alongside, doesn't look like he's going to quite get around, and he's going to back out a little bit early, leave the room. Again, trying to survive until the last moments of the race at least.
Manperson up into first. This is exactly the position that he wants to be to try to preserve his championship hopes for League in a Week.
Absolutely, just starting the second lap, and there's already 2 seconds up.
Well, you know for a fact that Majid is more likely than not going to contest Mia, who's proven to be the faster driver in qualifying. And in a normal team series race, this would be a situation where Manperson most likely would not be thinking about maintaining that race lead. And oh, that's a big crash. Who's that on the left-hand side? I think somebody just gone off in a major way. That's a Brandon Controller.
Uh-oh. Brandon Controller.
And another driver.
Looks like that was Blasini Rivera. Still sitting off on the side of the track. Not something you want to see, and there's not much you can do to get out of there.
Looks like I think Brandon might have tapped the back quarter of Rivera, leading up to Paratella. That's going to be devastating.
You hate to see it. It looks like Blasini Rivera has returned to garage.
Tony, I think, just lost a spot. Rene Oki getting through, and that's Boonstra and Burns. Both of the Porsches trying to get around this McLaren right now. There's another car. Colin Dunham's off. I'll take back here and see if I can't find out what's going on with that. I think Colin Dunham might just let the servo before I can even go back with it.
I think you might be right. A little too frustrated, maybe?
He's done.
Man, I hate to see that. Really do.
Rose up behind Majid right now. That gap has come down significantly. The last lap, Rose was 0.6 faster than Fazley, so I'll keep it on there for now as the main cam follows this fight in midfield.
Apparently a close battle here with Curtis Lee, Stefan Buckley, Wilson Spangler sitting a ways on back. Is this from the turn 1 incident?
Unsure, but Sir just sent it up the inside of the Tosa hairpin there. Love that Porsche livery.
Absolutely. Certainly one of the more interesting designs with the bright yellow accents.
Oh, man. That's close. That's brave. Aqua Minerali, no less. Who is that?
That is Wilson.
What a move.
That is
I thought there was going to be a crash there for sure.
Bold move with how little the McLaren seems to like the curbs generally.
Great stick, though. Oh, wow.
Looks like Buckley's going to go very wide. And that
Looks
is
like
going
Rose is shaping for a move on Majid right now. Up the inside to turn
You're
1.
absolutely right. Going to get it done nice and cleanly.
Baz didn't seem too eager to contest that.
No.
He's going to try to follow it through to take P2.
Yeah. Well, it would be a tough one to try and contest, too. He has already demonstrated that she has quite a bit of pace on him. And from the outside line there, it's tough to really make a very strong response, especially without running a strong risk of taking both of you out.
See a bit of a train forming into Variante Villeneuve right now. It looked like there was some tough racing going on at turn 1. Everybody made it out facing the right way. I think it was Rowdy Burns leading a train of cars.
Looks like you are correct on that.
There's a lot going on there.
Looks like Boonstra's managed to get around Rowdy and pull away a little bit. Got a 2-second lead over him. And who is this? Is this... Oh, this is Zip and Sarver in the pair of Mustangs. Falling in behind. With a massive train of cars coming up right behind them as well. Looks like that is going to be sort of led by the Aston Martin of Robichaud. Rodriguez and the Maca Cockcroft, we always love to see. And the number 86 Porsche just behind them.
Rose has already closed down the gap to Manperson. On the last lap was more than a second faster than the BMW leading the race right now.
That is terrifying to see how much pace she has.
He's battling, oh my goodness. Mr. Sir is going to take advantage of that with the Lexus. Does he have the straight line speed? It's a strong car, but the slipstream is hard to contest. And the Porsche just has to choose to try and defend against the inside. Against Sir, goes onto the grass. You've got to be kidding me. 3 wide, looking into Tamburello, and ooh, almost some contact there.
And he's going to pick up 2 spots in one shot.
Very nice for Mr. Sir. What do you expect, though?
I don't think you can get the name Mr. Sir without showing some grace on track.
Which is true.
It's like Spangler's going to get around as well. Throwing his name into the hat here. Looks like just a couple spots up, we're going to be seeing some extra battling. Freeway with Rodriguez, Zip, and Cockcroft. Cockcroft thinks about it, but decides better to play it a little safer right now.
Sticking on with Rose right now, following.
Yep.
Man person in front. Lots of quality racing going on down the field, though. This is a difficult track to
Absolutely.
overtake on under the best of conditions. Oh dear.
Ooh.
Oh no, who's that? That's a Champion Motorsports car. Nearly went off in a major way there into the barrier.
It'll be
Managed to save it,
Rodriguez.
I believe it's
305.
Champion Motorsports. Yeah, indeed.
It is.
It certainly could have ended a lot worse for them. I see a yellow flag in the back. It's the 923. That's Acosta. Appears to have met with some misfortunes. Let's see if I can take that back. Looks like on the exit of Aqua Minerale, most likely got some power oversteer
Wow.
and lost the rear end of that car. Unfortunate there. Fortunately, a second race on the horizon. We're about halfway in. Oh my goodness, that is bold.
Oh, and that is going to be a slip from Wilson as Spangler goes by. That is going to let a couple of other cars through as well. Looks like that's going to be Curtis Lee in the 992. Interesting to see him in the 992. So used to seeing him in the Lexus.
Just keep an eye on this battle, because I think my prediction may be starting to come to fruition a little bit. Jeed and Kish are both closing up on the back of Rose, who has lost a little bit of pace and having to chase Man-Person, who just set his best lap of the race on the last tour of the circuit, a 141.8 compared to the 141 flat that Rose has put up as the purple lap so far. But it is a mega tow and a good run down the main straight. The BMW is going to have to defend here. You want to get eyes on this one before long, because it looks like Rose is shaping up to try for a move for the lead. It's a very defensive line from Man-Person, going to force the NSX around the outside if there can even be any overlap. But that overpower from the M4 is too much for the NSX. Trying for the switchback here is Rose up the inside of the Tamburello chicane on the exit, and it's a done deal.
Absolutely, it is very, very well executed. And unfortunately for Man-Person, that's going to let Fazley have a look in here as well.
That's exactly what Rose wanted. He's going a little bit wide at the Tosa hairpin. He's in a battle with Man-Person presently in the standings. I've just seen Bao appears to have had some sort of a slowdown. I'll get on board with that now. And it looks like running it a little bit wide. First of two corners there at the Tamburello chicane. Nothing too severe.
Not too severe, you said?
Not quite, so.
That's good.
If you have to have an error,
Let
it
it
will
be.
be a small one. Yeah.
Absolutely, especially again in these 20-minute races, there's so little time to recover. If you do get caught up in shenanigans, whether they are of your own making or not.
Speaking of it, I've just swapped on the Robichaud right as he nearly went into the back of a car in front of the Piratel and ended up having to run it wide and lost one, almost two. Gets a little bit argy-bargy with the car behind and keeps that second position. Now it's just a complete brawl as Madison and a couple of other cars almost going three wide through Variante Alta. Two wide is already bad enough. A car's off on the side of the road. Everything is just chaos here. That's Rigatoni, who's out more than a couple of positions now. I don't know what's going on. Rigatoni was in the wall.
Oh, you hate to see that. Cannot happen to a nicer guy.
Promised I would keep my voice down in this race for my own health, but this is getting ridiculous, guys.
There's so much action. It's part of the 20-minute races is the extra intensity it brings. Again, because there is no time to make up mistakes, you have to strike while the iron's hot.
Indeed, and that's going to be a sizable error there for Burns.
Absolutely, it's going to let a couple of cars go through there in a very short span of time of Zip and Sarver, a couple of Mustangs.
We've seen Aoki appears to have lost a spot to Boonstra. I'll see if I can get that back on that PIP. There's the 43 in front, maybe a little bit wide there.
As Burns facing a ton of pressure now from Sir and Spangler. One little mistake rattles you, and there's just not a great way to reset here on this track.
Uh-oh, and speaking of, hang on. Mia Rose has just lost 3 positions.
Oh,
I'm going to
no.
take this one back, if possibly I can. I think this may have been an error at the Variante Alta chicane. On the PIP right now, and lost the back end, and around she goes. Huge error there, unforced for Mia Rose.
Ah, you hate to see that.
And now for Majid, P1 is right back on the table. Got the draft on Guy Manperson on the main straight. And Rose is almost certainly out of this fight with only 6 minutes to go. Fazley up the inside of Manperson into Tamborello turn 1, but he can't quite make it stick. The 599 will stay ahead presently, but we've seen this one before.
At the same time, we're watching Sir get around Burns here. Spangler's going to be anxious to make a move, get this position, stay right on the back of Sir, as Sir also catches right up to Zip Jr. and Sarver. Looks like Rowdy's going to run it wide. Is he trying to hold the inside, or is he letting Spangler through? It looks like he's letting Spangler through altogether.
To be frank, that might be a wise move, but there's only 5 minutes left. That's a car off in front. Who in the world was that?
That was Zip Jr.
Oh no.
Spangler's going to go around him, and that is going to let Burns have a look at him too. Burns is going to get around him, retake that spot from him that he lost a little bit ago, and Burns is going to go right off track and give the position back. Oh man, so much happening all in one go.
Reynolds lost the position to Velasquez a little bit ago. It was an error on the exit of Villeneuve. And that's P8 for Velasquez. And Joel Moffat and Travis Robinson have kind of muscled their way into the top 5 here. Rushovich also in a comfortable 7th. It's been an uneventful race for some of those running in the top 10. I'm sure they'll not necessarily be too discomforted by such a result. Looks like Majid, he's starting to lose the back of Manperson right now, but Manperson is hoping that Fazley will maintain that 2nd place. As there's a drive-through for Josh Damiani. Oh no.
Oh no, you hate to see that. It's so easy to get track limit violations here through Variante Alta and Aqua Minerale especially.
Oh my goodness, who in the world is that? This car completely backwards there on track, just a moment ago. That's Acosta, who almost got in the way of... It was just on the side of the road there and forced a little bit of evasive action from a couple of our top 5 drivers, and then more. And was able to get away without any additional contact. This is just an insane race on Imola. It's only supposed to be 20 minutes. But there's a ridiculous amount of action going on here.
It's so condensed too, and you're constantly switching between different fight scenes here. Makes it feel like it's been so much longer than the 17 minutes we've elapsed so far.
Oh, there is Palmieri.
Palmieri's...
A 33rd, I think. It's just the nature of the tournament, honestly. He would be higher up if not.
It's a tough one, and he may have had a couple of small little bobbles here and there. His fast lap currently is looking at a 42.5 as he cuts through the inside of the track.
Yeah. Wait, did he did it on purpose?
It looks like he might have done that just to force the overtake.
Hang on, I'm going to take that back. I thought he just made a mistake and didn't brake in the right spot. Yeah, I think he might have kept it pinned. It looks like that car does have damage on the front. So I think Palmieri might just...
It's a little tough to see, but you could be right. Yeah, because it looks like the hood's popped up just a touch.
Indeed.
The question now is, how did he pick that up?
Mystery for all time, I fear. Majid has outperformed Manperson. He's 4/10 faster on the previous lap, but has Kish right behind. So the battle for the lead and the podium positions is still very much alive here. The 955 has gone off. Let's see if I can find that real fast. That's Taft. He was off on the side of the road. Spencer Taft, that is able to rejoin safely, thankfully for that. But more or less going to be the end of any competition they could possibly have. Majid is right up on the back of Manperson now. I don't know how I missed that gap going down, but it is just heating up for the battle for P1.
Kish still sitting right on the back of Fazley as well. Fazley looks like he's losing a touch time through there.
NSX, not necessarily a car that gets along famously with the curbs. Versus, of course, the M4, lovably referred to as the Chungus, which will ramble over the sausage every day of the week.
With nary a complaint, may we add. But yes, the NSX, not the best over curbs. It'll work, but it's not going to do so without some complaints.
White flag is being waved. Kish and Majid have exactly one more lap to try and get their final say. Moment Spangler right now, by the way, who is up right behind Mr. Sir in the Lexus. So
Oh,
keep
as
that on the
Fadley
VIP.
cuts through a chicane there.
Oh no. And Damiani failed to serve the drive-through penalty and has been disqualified as a result. Well,
It looks like there's a close battle going on between Cockcroft, Lee, and Wilson, but I'm hesitant to turn away from our battle here between Kish and Majid.
I'll see if I can find some deltas down the field. Tony is gone off, and I think one of the strangest places I think I've ever seen. I'm going to take that one back a little bit.
Saw him dropping down the order there. Where,
He went off on the straight. I wonder if maybe he had some sort of ill-gotten overtake or earlier on, was letting a car past, or what was going on there. Might have been distracted by some sort of animal of the feline variety. Jeff Spangler's just gone off track, chasing down Mr. Sir. He's definitely getting very aggressive with the track limits against that Lexus in front. It's an interesting fight there, but Guy Manperson, what a drive as they come across the line, checkered flag, and Majid will hold on to P2. Amazing stuff from Manperson to hold on to that lead.
absolutely it is. Check in here with Yaren, getting right around Pinkard. Dan Cran looming in the back, followed closely by Rigatoni as well.
Sarver looks like they had some sort of big mistake out of Variante Alta and lost 2 positions
Oh
before
no!
Ravazza.
You
I
hate to see
think
that.
they're going to come across the line in that order. Indeed they will. Some big finishes down the field and a lot of close fights. Palmieri's in a train of 3 cars, all nose to tail, going up to the line. It's Cran, followed by Rigatoni, followed by Palmieri, a sentence I never thought I'd say in a long time. But
Certainly a different order than we would expect to see them. Yern and Cockcroft park up right next to each other.
race 1 in the books. Let's talk about results here. Velasquez and Reynolds, P8 and P9 respectively. Rushevich in 7th, respectable result. Moffat in 6th, just behind Rose. Robinson, I would say, is kind of expected for a top 10 finish, but P4 is still a solid result. Kish in P3, it's his worst result so far in League in a week, but it's certainly not bad. Fazley in an incredibly solid position as well in P2. Started in P2, was hoping potentially for the race win, especially after Rose had that unforced error, could not convert. But Guy Manperson coming in number 1. Lovely stuff.
Very strong race from Manperson, certainly. But Kish to be 3 races in and have been on the podium in all 3, that's big, especially against the competition that's out here in this series.
Yeah. Let's recall as well that it's half points given for each race, so 110 divided by 2 goes to Guy Manperson. It essentially averages out your finish between the 2 races. So if you had a lousy result this go around, you have an opportunity to make up for it. And Kish, I think with the more consistent results, and the same for Guy Manperson, who's more or less going to be contesting Mia Rose, which, as I mentioned, was a previous champion here in SRA in Division 1, which is an achievement that I cannot really understate too much. I mean, Rose driver who has experience in professional outlets such as SRO, Palmieri, who won a race as well and has been, notably coming up through the ranks. Did start in the pit lane, but still only a P30 finish. Coming up through a field of, 50-odd cars, that is still impressive. But I think he was probably looking for a little bit more somehow.
Yeah, certainly I was expecting to see him a little higher, even starting from the pit lane. I was a little surprised he didn't break into at least the top half.
And hold the phone, I see a plus 60 seconds next to his name, dropping him down into P40.
Oh, no.
That might be related to some questionable track limits interpretations for the 434, and that's going to hurt his race even more than it already was. I think Palmieri is going to be calling it, I think, for League in a Week, trying to contest for the actual title after this one, but we'll see.
Yeah, we will have to see. But, I think he's probably just using this more as a fun outlet rather than anything else. I think if he was taking this as seriously as he could have, he would not be going for pit lane starts, and I don't think we would be watching him do donuts in the pit lane during
I think I'd have to agree. Yep. No donuts, generally speaking. Bakery is reserved for drivers who are enjoying themselves in general. So, Jeff getting in the chat asking if Jacob's going to start in the pits. We'll see what he says. He does have 6 on the grid reserved for him, and he says no. He says no in the chat, so we can expect Palmieri to actually take the field this time and see what he can do against.
Assuming he isn't a liar.
Which, I want to give him benefit of the doubt. Okay, all right. Let's just be nice for once. Not something we frequently do here on the SRA Twitch channel, I think.
I think we're usually pretty nice. If anything, any of this is just banter more than anything else, of course.
Oh, he does say he had to restart his game last second.
Oh.
So perhaps that is why he did not field the start for race 1 here at the Autodromo Enzo E. Dino Ferrari. We're going to have to keep closer eye on lap 1 this time around. I have no clue what in the world got into these drivers, but they were having... I hesitate to use the word fun, but they were having a time.
They were having a time, and it looked like it was a good time. From my perspective, anyways.
I did consider, instead of joining the commentary box, I did consider taking the field myself. But then I also considered that I would probably just end up dying and having less fun than if I just sat here and watched everybody else do circles on the grass. So
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I haven't been putting in the laps that I should have been lately. And I don't know that I could go out there without being a liability.
For that, I'll never forgive you. You should be out there right now.
Out there putting another Bentley on the grid.
Yes, sir. Need that right-hand drive representation. Again, sentences I never thought I'd hear, but we'll see how things shape up. I wonder if Majid is going to get a little bit more aggressive into turn 1 this time. I think he did end up having contact with Spangler, it was last time. If memory serves, we did see Spangler further down the order in the last race.
We certainly did,
and
but I don't...
think it was a result of that lap 1 contact.
Very easily could be. I unfortunately wasn't able to keep track of everything that transpired during that. I do know that I saw Spangler off, but I don't know how far he cycled down the order.
He was just taking an alternative line, shall we say. And Palmieri is out on track right now. So rolling down towards the start-finish line. I don't really believe we saw any major impacts of tire wear. Of course, in a 20-minute stint, you don't really expect to have that much going on. The temperatures are on the high side, but it shouldn't be anything particularly major. So Guy Manperson won the previous race. Kish has a little bit more to fight for this time. And with an aggressive Palmieri on the inside line, things could easily shake up. He does have the outside leading in towards turn 1. As we prepare for the green flag, it's going to be all bets off. And we will goes leading from Majid. Once again, Spengler going to be looking for a better getaway this time around, and the lights are green. Car 712 has already received a drive-through. That's Fazli Majid for position on the start. So now, that's going to shake things up quite significantly in towards turn 1. Man-person kind of stalled out 3 wide with Kish. And Palmieri, and Palmieri has a bit of a slide there. He's going to have to try and catch this one. It's going to be an interesting scenario in towards Villeneuve.
And that is going to let that lead pack at 3 start breaking away a little bit. Fazli, of course, with the drive-through penalty, he's going to have to serve that or take a pretty notable time penalty here. Palmieri's going to try to send it up the inside. He's having a look at the very least. So we're on board here with Kish.
Relatively clean lap 1 all the way down the field so far. Rigatoni got the better of Anderson at one point, but other than that, they've kept it relatively contactless. Nicely done, and of course, right as I said.
Yep, right as you said it. I was noticing a couple of yellow flags flying down through the hairpin.
Whoa. Rashovic, I think getting a little bit too much of the exit curbing at Aqua Minerale with a driver on the outside, and is going to have to take Variante Alta quite slow. BMW up the inside now. And it's going to be a losing drag race, I feel. Joel Moffat was able to take advantage of the mistake, but the real gainer there was Peter Reynolds. Nice move. He does come into the pit lane to serve that drive-through penalty. Side by side down the field. Zip up against Rowdy Burns. That's Mustang versus Porsche. And oh, I do see cars off in the background. Oh dear. It looks like there's at least 2 or 3 involved in what could have been a relatively major incident. I'm going to see if I can take it back and find out what exactly has gone on here.
Oh, as we see Placini Rivera on the main screen here going off.
There was some sort of contact. Oh dear, yeah, there was some sort of major contact out of Ravatsky 2. I think implicated a couple of cars.
Hate to see it, hate to hear it.
Why does my cam switch back to live pictures? Everybody's going off. Oh my goodness, so much gravel being kicked off in the midfield. They're really going after it.
Currently watching Smith battling with Velasquez, followed very closely by Maycumber, Byron, Movo, and Madison and Rigatoni. Rigatoni all the way up in P18 right now, which we love to see. Though he is dealing with some stiff competition from Anderson and Boonstra. Both fighting very closely here.
Rashovic has battled past Moffat. It's still a little bit of a fight, though, as the GTR is getting a little bit aggressive in towards Variante Alta. I think Rashovic is going to stay ahead and be freed up to try to chase down Reynolds in front and reclaim a proper top 10 spot for this race. P7 in race 1. Certainly not a bad result by any means, but he wants more. He's said as much, and he's got Jeremy Urin in front, which for Urin, this is just a fantastic position to be in. Same for Placini Rivera, who you might remember had a major incident at the start of the last race and had to retire early on.
Yes, he did, and I know he had a little bit of an off early on in this race as well. Looked like it was no contact, just lost the rear end of the car a little bit, ran it out into the gravel, and was able to rejoin safely without too much of a loss. But yeah, Jeremy Urin up here in P7. That is a stellar drive for him. I know he loves the 488 and loves Imola, and I believe he loves the combination of the two together especially. We see...
Oh my goodness.
Sir getting around Lee there, it looks like.
Seeing a 3 wide, almost Movo with Boonstra, Brian Anderson, and Rowdy Burns going 2 by 2, it looks like, towards Piratella.
Oh my goodness.
And I don't think anybody's actually found the racing line. Boonstra looks like she's actually got the best of that one. The run down towards Aqua Minerale is not going to be very favorable for this. They will find their way into single file without a whole lot of action, but the 518 goes wide again. Movo just can't keep it on track there for a couple of corners in a row. Perhaps a lapse in concentration and loses out big time.
keeping an eye on the pip that you have going, and that is just some intense battling. Around, there's quite a few battles going on, but I don't know that anything is quite as close as that.
I'm almost forgetting about the main screen, to be honest. But the battle for the lead, which was only just heating up in the last race, has cooled down in a major way. The gap is already 1 second. Well, it's 2.7 from Rosa Spangler, 1.7 again back to Man-Person, and Kish about a second behind that. Palmieri is sneaking up on the back of that. It looks like it's going to be more of a midfield-focused type of event here.
Well, and that's what we saw last evening as well. Fortunately, there's just too much.
Wait, Palmieri's just gotten past Kish? It was like a half-second gap. What's happened? Oh, Kish ran wide at Villeneuve. Plain and simple. Big position gain there for Palmieri.
Absolutely, it is. Certainly having a much better race than the last one.
That's fair to say.
Than our first run around here at Imola.
Rotrovic has been very close up behind Peter Reynolds on a couple of occasions here, but just cannot find a way past. Benismo not exactly famous for its braking capabilities, so I'm not necessarily surprised.
I'll take your word for it, because again, it's been quite a while since I've driven it. But I do believe that it generally excels more in the straight line rather than the. It likes getting up to speed, doesn't like coming back down from it. Perhaps is the best way to put that.
I think that's fair to say. So Yarn did just run a little bit wide on Ravazza 1, allowing Rivera through.
Still sitting in the top 10 though, is a great showing for him.
Oh, for sure. If you want to, in fact, why don't you go ahead and, you know, the 488 Evo is a wonderful car. You should get a little bit of onboard engine audio from that baby, because it is a wonderful sound. I'm gonna help myself even a little bit. Listen to that turbo crackle.
Yep, little popcorn machine.
Backfire of the exhaust. Oh, Cockcroft. Oh, wow. He's a little bit of action. We've seen some doubles go down, and that's a Mustang near about spinning out. Nice save. That was Zip. He lost control of the back end there. He's going to suffer a loss of position and potentially two, but almost he's going to think a little bit better of that one. Try not to go too aggressive. Mistakes to pull that back.
Aaron closing up on Lassini Rivera here. Not quite yet able to make a move, but he is closing that gap and staying right there, filling up his mirrors.
Evo.
Bouncing around over the curbs.
Car, but you can watch that cam on the curbs, and that's all you really need to know about the old generation cars.
It is a great sounding car. It unfortunately just is not one that I really mesh with on driving style.
Challenger to get a hold of? It really is the 296 light. Oh, that's a wide moment. I've got to say, apologies to Matissey there. Looks like I've just given a little bit of a commentator's curse. The 173 is going to find their way by after Boonstra and Anderson snake through in Ravazza. It might be an opportunity for Burns as well against that Aston Martin. On the right-hand side, but it looks like the straight line differential is going to be just a little bit too great. Either way, 3 spots lost. One corner there. Oh, wow, it's going to be more. That's a huge miss on the braking point, and Matissey's going to go into the gravel a second time. I want to watch this. We're just missing the braking point. I think the Lexus in front may have just braked a little bit earlier than Matissey was expecting. Or it might have been a lapse of judgment. That's Mr. Sir, I believe. Or that might have been Stefan Buckley, actually, who was in front at the time. But one way or the other, those are solid drivers. I don't necessarily feel like they'd be braking out of sorts in that area.
Yeah, not to that extent, but however, it's those little mistakes add up, and it's such a difficult track to be very consistent on.
Dan Cran got past 2 as well.
as we watch them side by side with Movo, Aoki, and Lee. Movo coming out ahead. Looks like he was able to just make the pass.
Movo's not really had an exceptional showing here. So being able to stay in front of this train will definitely be a highlight of the race for them.
I think you're right, and I don't know how familiar Movo is with Imola. Could be that this is essentially first look at the track for them.
I just switched on to Rushevich, and it looked like he had a potential for a run against Reynolds, but just couldn't put it together. Reynolds, who missed the apex by a little bit at turn 1. Rushevich kept it close, but could not find the aggression.
Looks like Aoki may try to make a move around the outside. He's going to switch back, but not quite get it done quite yet.
Looks good, though.
919 DQ for pit lane speeding. Uh-oh. There's going to be the Audi of Zamora. Oh, and Movo's going to go wide. That is going to let Aoki and Lee go back through. And let Henny catch right up all the way to his tail. As we see a drive-through for track limits come in for the 599 of Guy Manperson.
Oh, no.
Oh, this is going to shake up the points quite a bit.
Manperson, who I think just got that coming out of Variante Alta. We talked about how it's a little bit easier to go wide there, and was chasing down Spangler for P2. Oh, that's disastrous. Madison lost another position, I think, to an unforced error as well. That's good news for Kish, though. That's insanely good news for Kish, actually.
Absolutely, because that is going to cost Manperson quite a bit of time and consequently quite a few championship points for this second race here. So that little bit that he clawed back in the first race, he's going to lose it all and then some, most likely, here in the second.
Noticing Velasquez and Martin Smith coming up to the back of Joel Moffitt, presently speaking, and Peter Reynolds has just about reduced the gap to 1 second to Yaron in front. And Rushevich, again, pushing just a little bit too hard. I'm catching like these little moments in the chicanes where the GTR is giving him just a little bit too much of a tough time on the exits.
Yep.
A slight bit too slidey, can't quite get a hold of it, and it's costing him dearly.
Absolutely it is. Now, you've driven the GTR quite a bit, campaigned it even for a season. You know, I know you said it's not the best on the brakes. How is it over the curbs?
It could be better, but it's certainly not terrible in my opinion. You know, Imola is a bit of a stickler track, but I got along pretty well with this circuit.
Okay.
Personally speaking, it's more likely than not just a little bit too unstable in the rear. That was a bit of a bumble over the curb for that BMW in front. I'm on the back end of this train in the PIP right now. It's Rushevich's POV. But yeah, I don't know. It might just be a setup-related thing. It could be the ride height's a little bit too high. Maybe the traction controller or toe. But one way or the other, Rushevich is struggling here a little bit for pace. 142.3 is not necessarily phenomenal race pace for the GTR at this circuit on current lap.
No, but do keep in mind as well that with the sky-high temperatures we have here, that's going to affect the pace a little bit. Granted, not to that extent, I don't believe. But I think
lap is Rose with a 40.6, and her last was a 41.1. Rushevich is relatively competitive with some of the midfield D1 drivers, so I'd at least expect him under optimal conditions to be running about a second or so slower than top times.
well, and the other question here is how much is he being held up by Reynolds where he can't quite make the pass, but he has the pace? Because it looks like he's actually pulling up right alongside him here. As I watch from the back of Yaron's car, though maybe not quite as close as I thought.
We hope for his sake that he can get the pass done. He could really use it. Mr. Sir just now getting around Boonstra for P16. There's a good little battle they had going on there for a moment. Yaron is still running and getting away from Reynolds now with the attacks having just happened. Jeremy is on for just a spectacular result, as is Blasini Rivera. I mentioned before, Travis Robinson still kind of, not being talked about the entire stream. But still,
He's
with a
putting.
phenomenal finish.
You're right. He is putting in a solid performance. He's just not in the middle of the action.
Same thing
There's
you
not
said
much
for,
to talk about.
For Rose this race, for Spangler this race. For Rose really stepping out to a phenomenal lead, 10 seconds almost the gap now.
Which is wild to see. Remember when I first joined the league back here in season 6 of the team series? Spangler, super nice guy, super fast, really was at the very top of the pecking order there. And actually had the opportunity to team up with him for a 6-hour endurance race at Hungaroring, and to see him losing a 9-second gap is, I mean, that hurts my soul a little bit.
Again, though, we're talking about Rose.
I get it, and I think
Yes.
in Jeff's defense, in Spangler's defense, I think he has been out of the car for a moment, and so he's just hopping back in, and I think maybe 15-20 minutes before race start was his first laps in the McLaren here in quite a while. So in his defense, there's those, but still, that 9-second gap is quite impressive, and I have a feeling that Mia is basically cruising at this point.
More likely than not, yes. I'm looking at the statistics for this race. Cran up 24 positions, did just have a little bit of an off and actually lost some, I think 2 or 3. Manperson is down 17 after that drive-through penalty, so that's just an awful story for him. Stefan Buckley up 21. Andrew Wilson, 25 positions gained, 31 for Mr. Sir, the most out of any driver, I think, on the entire grid. And yeah, it's easy to see why. We've only got 50-odd cars that started, so no surprises. But I think the biggest one for me, you might be surprised to hear, is either Martin Smith, up 9 positions into P11 right now, or Jeremy Aaron, up 5 from 12th on the grid into P7. It's just great performance. We talked about it already, but I feel compelled to say again.
Both are great performances. I am most proud of Jeremy. Being a conglomerate mate with him, super nice guy. You could not, a great result like this could not happen to a nicer guy. Just couldn't.
Yeah, I feel like we are a little bit biased now.
Oh, well, of course.
Yeah,
That's the fun of
for
it,
life.
right?
Yeah. If you guys wanted an unbiased opinion, you wouldn't let both of us get in the booth at the same time. Rajovic is taking another run here at Reynolds. Will he finally get the move done? Into Piratella.
He's got the inside line here. He's got an advantage. He's going to hold Reynolds out wide. Reynolds is going to try and fight back, though. And Moffat is going to have a cheeky look there as well. Rajovic able to go ahead and get the pass done for the time being. It'll be interesting to see how Reynolds responds. Just a minute and a half left in the race, so with Mia about to cross the line, this will be heading into the final lap of the race. Rajovic just needs to hang on for 1 lap, as Smith is having a look at Moffat back here as well.
Take a look just real fast here. Palmieri has been 4/10 faster with Spangler on the last lap, and the gap is 0.9 seconds. It shouldn't necessarily evolve into anything, but I'm still curious about that one. But yes, on the white flag lap now. Well, there's a bit of a battle going on here. Andrew Wilson potentially diving up onto the inside of the car in front and actually loses the rear end. And oh no, he's going to let 2 cars through. That's Manperson and Cran, who both benefit from a bit of aggression there from the 414 McLaren.
I'm not 100% sure what happened, but I just saw Movo get around Lee. Lee looks like he may have gone wide. And as Movo dips 2 tires off on the outside through the last little corner complex there, Lee is right on his tail in the slipstream. Don't know if the 992 is going to have enough to quite make something happen here. Doesn't look like it yet. But this will be one to keep an eye on here on this final lap.
I've just seen what looked like it was going to be a 3-wide into Villeneuve. Dan Cran had to take a little bit of evasive action after backing out of it. Probably a wise move. Contact, I'm nearly guaranteed. I had my race ended there in season 11. So I can speak from experience, saying that probably not a spot you want to be in. Palmieri is only 0.4 of a second here behind Spangler, but crossing the line for P1. It's Mia Rose. Well done here in the NSX GT3 Evo. The Spangler, I think, is just about able to hold off Palmieri here, even with a little bit of a wiggle. I'm not sure if I'd be doing that with a car 0.2 behind. But they will round out the podium in order. Kish coming up in 4th. Very nice stuff.
Reynolds not able to respond to Rushevich. Moffat looming just behind and Smith right behind him. Not going to be able to make anything happen, it doesn't seem. Paula Smith dangerously close.
There was some action there with
Oh goodness.
with man person and crew.
Cran looks like he's making a move on Wilson here. Don't know that he's going to be able quite to get it, but it is going to be a drag race all the way down.
Not quite. That'll be the closest gap that we have to the end. Momo does hold off Lee in the end for P25.
Great racing all the way through the field. Certainly some highlight battles, though.
I think there were some highlights and there were some lowlights. Madison and Movo, I think both are my unfortunate. I really hate to say it. I hate to call them out like that too.
Well,
they did have.
It's tough to be top half of the field. Movo finishing P20. If I remember.
Hard to say as drivers start to drop out of the server. I think it was 25th, but still in a field of 50 cars. I mean, just still top half, and there's something to be said for that, I suppose.
Absolutely. If your bad race is still right there at the top half of the field, it's hard to complain too much. Sort of like, let's see, Kish finishing P. No, Kish had to be P4, right?
I think Kish was indeed P4.
So just off the podium for his worst race of the season. I don't think he can complain too much about that.
For League in a Week? No, sir. Jeff Spangler, hang on. Jeff Spangler getting in the chat saying double stint tires. I think he may have failed to change his tire set from the first race to the second.
No way.
If that's true, that could explain.
There's no
his
limit
inability to close it down.
There's no limit on dry tire sets. I mean, unless my knowledge is wrong, which as I've mentioned before, I certainly am wrong plenty of times. It's not the first, nor would it be the last time. The game automatically switches over when you forward to a new session. So from race 1 to race 2, it would automatically equip a new set of tires. Unless
I could not possibly imagine.
Unless he reloaded his setup and it just defaulted to, let's say, tire set 2 both times. Well,
one way or the other, he still plays P2.
Absolutely. Certainly not a result to be ashamed of by any means. And especially to have had so minimal practice.
Unless you're Michael Manning, who I think might be disappointed with that. But he, of course, is faster than everybody else here by a fair margin.
One day we'll see him not show up and still win. I'm convinced of it.
It'll happen. I remember Donington a couple of seasons ago, we made the joke that the airplane going overhead was actually Michael Manning. Much faster than everybody else, of course. But that's a wrap. Again, more casual stream. Still had a couple of solid moments. No surprises there. Intense racing tonight.
Absolutely. Much more intense than we normally see through the GT3 Team Series.
Well, I think that may also be partially, due to lack of starting. Guy Manberson did get a little bit aggressive there on the last lap and ended up holding the position against Bao, which I don't necessarily think he was too pleased with. I certainly would not be. But hey, it's all for fun at the end of the day. And a good battle is a good battle, no matter how it ends. As long as the drivers respect each other, at the end of the day, I think I would still be pleased with that, even if it was a little bit cheesy.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. At the end of the day, it's all for fun. And as long as everyone can walk away with a smile on their face and happy with their performance, their individual performance in the race, I think that's as much as we can really ask for,
Indeed. Well, I think I'm gonna have to say I'm ready to go. Use the same set of tires in both races. Yep, we saw your message in the chat there, Jeff. Thought maybe you somehow managed to well, I'm trying to find a nice way to say mess it up. So good job on that. You know, at least you gave us something interesting to talk about here at the very end. But my voice is pretty shot, even though I tried to keep it casual for tonight.
There's
Hopefully I'll be able to do some more streams in the future. But
absolutely. Well, to be fair, there was far too much to talk about tonight. So much great racing, so much close racing, so many crazy battles that lasted almost the entire length of the race, both times. So
indeed.
With that said, we will go ahead and close this on out here.